Jim. How you doing?
I am fantastic. How about you, Madeline?
Good, thank you. Welcome.
Excited to be here. Hopefully we can help folks out today. And if they got any questions for me before we get started, I'm good. I know we want to give everybody enough time to get in here. So,
Hi, folks. If you're just joining us, welcome. We're just going to give it a few more minutes to let some more people log on.
yeah, howdy, attendees. Before we get started, if you guys don't mind, I see Eric, Faith, Jim, Katie, Mike, Tammy, and some others on there. Type in anything that you're hoping to get out of this today. Like you hopped on a webinar about magnetic leadership. What are you hoping to get out of this? Maybe one or two things that you want to see from this. You can just type it in the chat area there. And I want to make sure that I focus on delivering to you guys. That's important to me, especially if it's something specific. Like, hey, I'm struggling with this, or I'd like to be able to do that, or any of those type of things that you relate to leadership. Give me some idea of exactly what you're hoping to get out of this and why you registered, and we'll make sure we get it covered. That's a good question. What's the difference between a leader and a manager? We are going to hit that today, but just in a brief. Here's another one. We run a busy, so I will hit the difference between a leader and a manager. But at a very high level, a manager is somebody that manages expectations, activity, creates reports, measures, those type of things. Where a leader is somebody that really and truthfully gets everybody on board for following them, chasing after something that they're all aligned for. And so we're going to talk about how that gets accomplished, because while there's a lot of good managers out there, the ability to lead is something that we could all be better at, including myself. I still try to get better at it every day. Faith says we run a busy window and door business and have changing office and field service needs. So I'm always trying to learn new and interesting ways to be better for my customers and employees. Awesome. We're going to help you with that today. All right.
All right. I think it is time to get started here. I just wanted to welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining today's webinar. Do you have the magnet effect? The presentation is about to begin, but first I want to make sure that that chat box is working. I know some of you put in questions for us, and I appreciate that, but I'd also like to know, where are you watching from? What state are you coming from? I know we usually get a lot of people from the West Coast and the East Coast, and I find it interesting to know where everyone's from.
Well, I'm from Texas. I live right between Austin and San Antonio, Texas, in what they call the Hill Country. Lots of rivers and stuff like that around us. Tubing seems to be the summertime event. We put about 100,000 people a weekend down the rivers around our house. So pretty wild place to live.
Colorado, Cleveland. I have to say, Colorado is usually a big one. We usually get a lot of people from Colorado. Mexico.
Hey, welcome aboard.
Very cool. Welcome.
And so work in Arizona. Okay, great.
See, we got another Colorado.
We got one on either side of the mountains too. One east slope, one west slope, I think.
It's always a popular one. All right, perfect. Thank you so much. I'm glad to know that that chat box is working. Please feel free to utilize the chat box throughout the entire presentation. As questions come in, I know I'll make sure to ping them so that Jim can see them. And if they're not answered throughout the presentation, we'll make sure to get them answered at the end of the presentation. But I did want to introduce you to our speaker here, Jim. Jim Johnson is the head coach of Contractor Coach Pro, a full service coaching company for home servicing contractors. He's literally been in the back of offices of over 1,500 contractors and coached 400 plus with the Contractor Coach Pro, which has allowed him to see just about every way of succeeding and failing as a contractor. He has worked with companies that are over 100 million revenue and also as little as 1 million in revenue. He is going to give you an amazing presentation just from the slide she showed. I know that I'm very excited to hear what he has to say. He's going to share his screen now, and then we'll get this presentation started.
Before I share my screen, though, just a little bit more about me. We actually work with companies even smaller. Like we take a lot of companies that are 6 figures and help them become 7 figures. And we have coached some very large ones and coached them through from way down there to way up there, which is a lot of fun. And the big part of it is this leadership aspect. There's really 2 reasons why 70 to 80% of contractors go out of business in the first 3 years. One of those is financial acumen, like understanding their finances and what money is theirs and what money isn't, and all the stuff that goes along with it, like IRS audits and insurance audits and all those things, and just understanding where all the money goes. And then the other one's leadership. Leadership is the biggest reason why we actually see companies fail, and we try to help them with that in a variety of different ways, just understanding what leadership is, how to become magnetic, how to draw people to you, and also this idea of how to have the mindset of a leader. And so we're going to talk about all of those today. I am going to go ahead and share my screen, but just to give you a little validation of why I might be the guy to talk to you about this, I have led or ran or owned companies doing this type of stuff since I was 19 years old. I got hired as a guy working at a health club and quickly became a salesperson, then sales manager, then vice president of sales, and then literally running 170 sales guys across the state of Texas in 40 locations. I didn't know much about leadership at that point, but I learned on the job. I got a lot of great training provided to me. And then I was also a contractor myself, much like you guys, and had a very large organization, 10 locations, another 150 or so sales guys all around the country, as well as administrative and production staff. And we got to get them all on the same page. We got to get them all rowing the boat in the same direction, as you might hear people say. And I've really thought a lot about what brought people to want to work for a guy like me, because I don't think I'm anything special, to be honest with you. I'm just another human being walking this planet. But there were some key things that helped, and I want to share some of those with you today. But I want you to walk into this with one thing in mind to really kind of think about. What are you attracted to? And then why are you attracted to it? And I want you to think about that a little bit, because a lot of times we on the surface see something, we go, hey, that's pretty cool. I want to kind of pay attention to that. But if we think about it for just a second and ask ourselves, why are we attracted to that? Is it speaking to our own personal wants and needs, or is it speaking to something bigger and greater and with some more impact than that, possibly? So think about those things as we go through this today. We'll go ahead and get started, and I'll share my screen. Feel free to ask questions as we go through. If you want to stop me or anything, I am paying attention to the chat area there. And if I don't see it, I'm sure Madeline can draw my attention to it as well. So everybody see, Madeline, can you just confirm for me, or can everybody confirm for me that you can see the presentation?
Yes, it looks perfect.
Perfect, great. So how to become a magnetic leader, attracting high quality talent. And in our world today, this tends to be a big problem. I hear it as probably the number one thing that people come to us with is, hey, I'm having a hard time finding people, or people don't want to work, or a variety of other things. But then I look around and there are companies that have lots of people. And so why them and not us? That's kind of the question. So let's see what we can do about resolving some of that today. So our goal is to understand, first off, the issues we face as leaders, right? Like, hey, what are we facing? Signs that we need to improve. So what's out there? Like if I say yes to these things, that's some signs I need to improve. Then understanding of what leadership actually is, and then the responsibility that comes with that. The 7 fundamental truths of leadership that I'm going to share with you today that we teach all of our clients, and then what leadership should be, and then hopefully the top 3 things you can do right now to radically change the approach that you may have to leadership and draw people to your business. So let's talk about the issues we face. As contractors, we sometimes feel like we're out of control. very reactive to things, constantly putting out fires, wearing a lot of hats. Anybody feel like that? Anybody feel like, hey, I'm busy all the time? Problems arise, it seems like every day, and I'm constantly putting out fires. Nobody's doing what I say. They're not following the processes, any of that kind of stuff. And we'll just let you guys kind of type in and hopefully be engaged today if you're dealing with any of that. So that's one of the issues we face, just this feeling of a lack of control, which causes us to have slow growth. Bill banks, lots of hats to wear. Yeah, and that's common. It's not, we meet people all day, every day that say those exact words to us. Well, I'm wearing all the hats. I'm the owner, I'm the sales manager, I'm the production manager, I'm the everything manager. And so we feel like we're a bit out of control, and it's hard to pass those things along. And what that does, it creates this inability to grow at the speed that we know we could, right? If somebody would just like give us the roadmap, hey, I could do these things. And then what that leads to in the end is this no freedom. We feel like the business kind of owns us. Like we didn't really create a business for us. We created a job for ourselves. And because of that job, it owns me instead of me owning it. And both from a personal freedom aspect of things and also a financial freedom aspect of things. And so we want to try to solve those three main things for you today. We want to help you get control of your leadership and your business so that you can grow your business and achieve that personal and financial freedom that we're all chasing. Whether you own the business, you're a manager for a business, you're one of the leaders for a business, all of those things can be achieved. My goal whenever I hire anybody for my company isn't to see how many hours I can get them to work. It's to say, hey, this is the result and the activity that I would like you to do. If you can do that in 40 hours, great. If it takes you 50, well, it takes you 50, but if it takes you 10, I'm okay with that too. And so we want to allow this opportunity to create some freedom in our businesses as well, as long as the results and activity are there. So what are the warning signs? I want you guys to really think about this. I want you to think about, hey, is this something that I'm experiencing? Or saying to myself, hey, there's no loyalty out there. Anybody ever feel like that? Like no loyalty, I brought this guy on, taught him a bunch of things, and he left, and he should still be here, or she should still be here. You say things like people are lazy. You feel like that's kind of the overwhelming theme out there these days, that people are lazy or people are just plain dumb. I've heard my clients say much of that. I've heard contractors say that whenever I give this in a group setting. That one tends to get a lot of response. Millennials suck. I hear that one probably more than anything else. I have 3 millennial children, and I don't say that about them. There's just more to it with those guys. We'll talk about that a little bit. I feel like I'm always putting out fires. Any of these things that you're saying, no one wants to work. If it wasn't for me, this place would burn to the ground or fall apart, or it wouldn't be in business. Or feeling that you have to keep somebody regardless of how well they're doing for you. Or maybe they're doing so well for you, you can't let them go, but they just don't fit. Anybody ever say any of those things to themselves? I'll let you guys just type yes or no in there as we move forward. But I want you to think about that, those warning signs, or something else similar to that. Yeah, so Courtney, I've said them myself, and I've caught myself saying them. Yeah, it's a lot of negativity. Yeah, you're right, James. And so this mindset of us as human beings, if we're allowing those words, even if we're thinking them in our brain, they will come out in who we are. If what's in our heart, whatever's in our heart is what we're going to think, and what we think is what we say, and what we say is what we do. And if we let these things own us, it'll change our mindset into this very negative world. And to be a great leader, we've got to bring positivity and energy to the world for people to want to be engaged with us. So we're going to talk about how to do that today. It's not them, it's you. And that's the hard truth of this. It's probably the most difficult discussion we have with most of our clients. Is the very first place we need to look if we're seeing any of those things is in the mirror. Because there's one common denominator. If we're saying that everybody fits these things, well, there's only one common denominator between those things, and that's you. If everybody out there, people are lazy, well, is that true or is that your perception? And that's the way that you feel about it. So we've got to change that. We're going to talk about that today. So this is hard truth. Take a little look in the mirror today and say, hey, am I kind of bringing that to the world? So let's get a little understanding of what leadership is, and we'll solve some problems today. The Webster's Dictionary definition is the leaders of an organization, so like president or the CEO or that type of thing. And then the verb or action part of it, the art of motivating a group of people to act toward achieving a common goal. You'll notice that that is simply a factual statement. It is the art of motivating a group of people to act toward achieving a common goal. It's not a good group of people or a bad group of people. It's just a group of people. And there's been people on both sides of that. And so we'll talk about that a little bit. Leadership is not good or evil. It is not something where we should perceive it that way. There's been a lot of great leaders out there that were not their best person and out for the right reasons, at least according to their opposition. I'm sure you guys can all think of people like that out there. I'm not going to mention any, but I want to put that thought in your mind. I mean, there's been people throughout history that have gotten millions of people to follow them that maybe weren't after something that the rest of the world was wanting, but everybody that followed them surely believed in it. They were after it too. They felt like it was in their best interest. So don't think of leadership as good or evil. Think of leadership as either great or poor, or strong or weak. Might be a really good way to think about it. You're either a strong leader or you're a weak leader. One nice thing about looking at it that way is it tells us what we need to do with it. Strength and weakness has to do with improvement of a skill set or a regimen that will allow us to improve. Anybody that's weak can practice like working out, going out and working out consistently every day, you will get stronger. Leadership, working out on that, putting it into your world and thinking about it and exercising your brain and your skills on that will make you a stronger leader. And so as a leader, we have to understand that it comes with a lot of responsibility. I don't know how many of you have seen Spider-Man, but it was probably my favorite quote from the whole thing. With great power comes great responsibility. And as we lead our businesses or our teams or our people or our families, we have an ultimate responsibility for the future of the people that we're impacting and leading. And that should weigh on us. It should be something that you feel. It should be palpable. It should be more important, really, than just about anything else. And so, do you really want to be a leader? Understanding that that responsibility comes along with it. And we've had conversations with people that were moving into leadership positions and learning about leadership. And we go through this and we help them understand what this means. And it wasn't wired for that. It's not what they wanted. And it's good to know that. Not everybody is wired for leadership. Not everybody is interested in it. And the ones that actually understand the responsibility of it know the hard work that goes into it. So what are the 7 fundamental truths of magnetic leadership? What actually like draws people to us that we can lead a bunch of people after a common goal? Well, number 1 is absolute belief. And I don't mean just belief, I mean absolute belief. I did an interview on a podcast the other day, and the guy put it into such a great term. I want to share it with you guys. That your want to is bad enough. I want something so bad that I will do whatever it takes to get there that doesn't conflict with my personal values. That's what absolute belief is. It is conviction in your belief. And not just I believe in something, but I am convicted in it. There is a worthiness of this pursuit of my goal and the value in achieving it. And a lot of us will put things up like money or houses or paying off student loans or whatever it may be that is driving us. But once we accomplish that thing, then what? What comes next? And so I would strongly suggest that this goal that you're after, making it something more than that, that aligns with you and is part of who you are. And if you haven't read the book, Start With Why, it's a great book. I think it's mistitled a little bit. Our why is important for sure, but our who is even more important. Because if who we are isn't aligned with why we're doing what we're doing, our conviction will be lacking. And then discipline. So I have this convicted belief that this is the thing I'm after and it is worthy to go for. That will allow me to have the discipline to take the necessary actions. Now, those of you that don't know me, if you're following me on Facebook and you do know me, you may have noticed that I've started 75 Hard. I'm actually on day 61. Those of you that don't know what that is, it's a 75-day challenge where I have to drink a gallon of water every day, read 10 pages of a nonfiction book, work out twice a day for 45 minutes each time at least. And one of those has to be outside, regardless of climate or what's going on. So I've worked out at 3 degrees and running up a 300-foot hill and 6 inches of snow. And I've worked out in 95 degrees on a beach running in sand. And so everything in between, rainstorms, thunderstorms, ran in a hailstorm yesterday, which is kind of wild. But there's this discipline that goes with this that, hey, I'm going to complete this challenge. I have absolute belief that I can. I'm convicted in the worthiness of achieving this goal because of my own personal health that I needed to work on. And so it gives me the discipline that I'll take the action even when I don't want to. That's what absolute belief entails. And then faith, to persevere. And that faith is that your skill, your capacity and ability will be enough when all else seems lost. You think you're failing and everything's coming apart at the seams and all that other good stuff. I got faith in me. I can do this. I have the ability to get the skill, to create the capacity and apply all of my abilities, and that they're enough, that I am enough. If we can get to those 3 things, we can do pretty well as a leader. So that's number 1. They have to have absolute belief. Number 2, they are strategic thinkers. And if you don't already have a notepad next to you or a phone that you're taking notes on, feel free to take some notes. At the end, I'll give you my email address. I'll email this thing to you if you want. And I have some downloads for you as well to help you with some of these. So number 2 is strategic thinkers. They think it through. And so number 1, they know what they're focused on. Remember that absolute belief, this worthiness of the thing they're after? They're totally focused on it. Blinders on, I'm after that thing and I'm not going to allow distraction to come into my world. And so that focus gives them a point of reference to chase, and then they invest in themselves and they invest in their businesses. They look at each and every decision that they make as having a return on investment. It was probably one of the best pieces of advice I've ever gotten from a coach, is to look at every decision I ever make that way, no matter how small or how big that decision is. When I decide this thing, is it going to bring a return? Is it going to be nothing? Or is it going to take away? Right? And that helps us make much better decisions. And so this ability to invest in ourselves, if we don't, it comes from a place of fear. Like, hey, I don't want to spend, $1,000 to do this coaching thing because I'm scared to spend the money and I don't know if it'll be worth it or not. But that's not investing in it. Or I don't want to buy this book because it costs more than I think I should pay for it. Well, what's the benefit of reading that book? If I've gotten anything in this world is from reading, is probably the best place that you can invest in yourself. But I've gotten tons of coaches over my lifetime. I actually got asked the other day, how many coaches have I had? And I've had 13 different coaches that were specifically my coach, and a little over 500 grand in my life spent on coaches, worth absolutely every penny. Were some better than others? Absolutely. But did I learn something from every one of them? Absolutely. Was the return on investment equal? Of course not. Some were more, some were less, but never were they less than what I invested. And so it was worth that investment. And we understand that as leaders. And then we improve. We look at the problems that are out there, whether they're internal or external. Maybe it's a problem with me, something in the mirror, or something external with a process or a person, and we improve those things. It's what we're focused on. We're problem solvers. So number 3, they know who they are. And this is the big one for me. If we don't know who we are, it's very hard to figure out what we're after. And so before we go any further, I'm going to ask you guys a question. I want you to type in your answer to this. Regardless of money and business thinking, what do you love to do more than anything else? It gives you energy. You just, when you do this thing, you just absolutely are in love with doing it. Whether that's going and working at a soup kitchen, or feeding others, or playing music, or creating stuff, solving problems. What is it? Creating, drawing, planting, content design, etc. Okay, so Sheila, like you would do that without even being paid for it. You just love it that much. Learn, create, connect. Okay, so connecting with people, that's relationships. Is that connecting with people, Bill, or is that something else? Playing with the grandkids. Hey, Tammy, you are in my world. I just got a grandkid back a year ago. It's almost his first birthday. And yeah, that gives me a lot of joy. Coaching my kids' sports. Eric, that's fantastic. That I'm going to relate a story to that. Gardening, reading, learning, helping others, people, and the Lord. Hey, awesome. Well done, Bill. I love it. Spending time with my family. Okay, awesome. Riding. There we go. Riding horses. See, none of that had to do, Faith says, amen, Bill. Yeah, man, I'm with you on that, Bill. Amen, brother. That's kind of where I'm at in my world too. So when we know who we are and what gives us that energy, it's easy to take that thing and then apply it to the world in a way that says, hey, now I have some purpose and passion about what I do. Now, sometimes those things don't necessarily align with work, or we wouldn't think of them as that way. But Purnell said riding horses. That's the thing he does where there's the most joy. And I don't, Purnell, could you tell me what vein of contractor or trade or business that you're in? I know LEAP helps a lot of different businesses, but I'm going to bet that riding horses might not be a part of what you guys do for a living. So while I wait for Purnell to type that in, I think everybody could associate with that. But Purnell, if he was given his ability to do whatever he wants to do, I think he would ride, care for, train, and all. So home improvement. Okay. He would do those things with horses before he would do home improvement. But we have to understand that the home improvement is a vehicle to allow us to do the things that we love to do. And so the way I found out about this and the way I learned about this was through my grandfather. My grandfather knew who I was before I did, and I had resigned from being the director of sales and design for Acculinks. You guys may have heard of it. They had bought my software from me, combined it with theirs, and we built Acculinks together. It was a lot of fun doing that. But there came a point where I wasn't passionate about it anymore. Not that I didn't love technology and love contractors and want to see them succeed, but I just wasn't passionate about that vein anymore. We had accomplished what I had set out to do, which was to make Acculinks the best known software out there for roofing contractors. And the challenge was gone. So I resigned, came home, and when I landed on the ground, I found out my grandfather had gone into the hospital. So I drove straight there and proceeded to spend the next 3 months with him before he passed away. And he asked me what I was going to do now. It was the first time in my life that I had stopped doing something without the next thing set up. Financially, I was set. I didn't have to worry about that. I could just retire and do whatever I want to do. And that's how I kind of started. It was like, I don't really know. Like, I think I'm just going to fish and golf. He said, that'll last about a week. I know you better than that. He goes, well, what do you love to do? And what do you want to be? And I said, you know what? I love to coach basketball. I want to be a college basketball coach. And I had to wait for the laughter to subside because I was 42 years old at the time. And he said, well, you know, I think that horse has left the barn. What is it about that you love? Is it the basketball or the coaching? And it stopped me in my tracks. I had to really think about that. So your answer that you gave here, I want you to think about that. What it is about that thing that you love? Is it the riding or the horses? And really think about that because it's important. It stopped me for a day. Like I said, hey, I'm going to get back to you. And I came back the next day and I said, hey, you know what? It's the coaching. I enjoy that because after thinking about it a little bit, I went, you know, I really like the coaching part because I've worked with little kids all the way up to college age. I've coached everything in between, but I've coached baseball, basketball, football, salespeople, leadership, businesses. I've coached all kinds of stuff. I really like the coaching. Then he asked me, he said, well, what is it about the coaching that you like so much? And I said, well, I really enjoy like establishing what the fundamentals are and then installing those, improving them through skill improvement, installing a strategy and game plan, and winning. I love winning. I can't stand to lose. I'm competitive. And he's like, awesome. What are you great at? And that one kind of stopped me too, because I had to think about that a little bit. Me being me, I think I'm great at a lot of things, but the reality of it is I'm not. I'm only great at a few things, and even those I'm continuing to work on throughout my life. And I told him, I said, I'm pretty good at this contracting thing. He's just nonchalant country wisdom. Why don't you coach that? And that was where this all started 9 years ago in a hospital room in East Texas. And it was his knowing me better than I knew myself of who I was. Because my who, that I loved to coach and inspire people and win, helped direct my why, which was to help contractors succeed. Putting those two things together gave me alignment, and 9 years is the longest I've ever done anything in my entire life. Usually I last 4 or 5 years before I get bored because I've accomplished whatever it is. This is bigger. This is more impactful, and it drives me. What is that for you? So you got to know who you are, okay? And there's 3 different kinds of leaders out there from a really high level of thinking about it. There's the idealist, and that kind of fits me. You may hear it called visionary. The person that thinks everything's going to be wonderful, and there's this big, huge thing that you're after, and he can see it in his head, not always great at writing it down, but it's a clear picture for him. He knows or she knows exactly what that's going to be. And they can share it with others, and others get on board for it too. They're like, that's a really cool idea. That's awesome. So that's one type of leader. The other type of leader is the realist. This is the one that keeps the idealist grounded. This is the one that says, yeah, those are all great ideas, but that one right there is really good. Let's go after that. And keeps them from too much pie in the sky. And there's a really good balance in your business whenever you have those two people. If you don't have them, you should identify them. Who are those people? And they don't necessarily have to be partners. I've been the visionary in a lot of cases. I mean, I didn't have a partner, but the people that I put in place, I knew were the realists, the integrators, the implementers, the ones that made the big ideas come to real life. And so think about which one you enjoy the most. Now, all of us are a little bit of both, all right? But one is dominant and one is subordinate. And I want you to really think about that. And most of us lean to the idealist, the visionary. I'm the one with the great idea and it's going to be amazing person. But what you need to realize about that is while extremely valuable, you're not valuable forever. As a matter of fact, the longer you're at a place as the visionary, the less somebody will need you if you have a good realist, because they will start to build the things that you need and you'll start to empower the people that you need. And they'll start to run the business for you and start to make the decisions for you and allow you more time to work on your business instead of in it. But you're not needed on that day-to-day basis quite as much. You're not as important as you used to be. I know that's the case here at Contractor Coach Pro. I'm no longer the best coach here. I got 3 coaches here that are better than me at least, if not all of them. And that's cool to me. That's my job as a leader, is to create better leaders than me, to grow them and have them surpass me. And so knowing who you are is super helpful in getting to where you want to go. So that's 1 and 2. Number 3 is the one we're looking for as idealist and realist, champions. And I want to really kind of focus on this idea of a champion. There are things in our businesses that need to be done. We say we wear a lot of hats. And sometimes I need to pass those hats off to somebody else that has a predication for it. For example, I'm pretty determined. I like to have fun and all that other good stuff, but it's not my focus. My focus is, hey, we got things to do, processes to build, content to do, and things to achieve. I'm kind of there, competition to win. And so sometimes the fun isn't quite here the way that I know I would love it to be. So I have a fun champion. That's their job. That's what they own in our business. And their job is to make sure things are fun around here because it's one of our core values. And they're focused on it. They're constantly thinking about it. And I don't have to as much. And I can stay in my lane where I'm good and let that person be in their lane where they're great. And so where do you need champions in your business? It could be all kinds of places. Hey, we want to put this new piece of software in. And as the owner, I think that's a great idea. And the guy that sold it to me, man, it looks awesome. I can't wait for it to do that. But the putting it in and doing the install and making sure all the things work right and all that ain't my jam, really. But that guy over there, man, he sure does like to hang out on his phone a lot. And he sure is using his computer a lot to do these things. I wonder if he would be our technology champion or our CRM champion or our leap champion. So look for champions in your business. A lot of times they will do it just to do it because they're so passionate about it. We have a marketing champion here that doesn't get paid as the marketing leader. She's actually our employee performance coach. We have a sales champion here who is actually one of our coaches, but he's also our sales champion. We have champions in a lot of different aspects of our business because we all see this picture together to grow this thing and work together to achieve some things. And we're willing to take on where we have great ability and skill to see the whole thing move forward. So I'd strongly encourage implementing this idea of a champion in your business. So number 4, they know who they attract. So whenever we started this thing, I said, I want you to think about what you're attracted to and why it attracts you. Because we know as good leaders, hopefully great, strong leaders, who we attract. Now, those of you looking at the screen right now, on your left, the black and white photo, can anybody tell me who that is? See how fast somebody gets this? Usually fairly quickly. Anybody? Steve Jobs. There you go, Bill. Well done. All right. Can anybody tell me who the guy on the right is? Yeah, that's kind of what I thought. His name is Larry Page. He's one of the richest people in the world, far richer by 10 times than Steve Jobs ever achieved, the CEO of Google. But we don't know who he is. But there's people standing in line to work for Google every day. And there's probably a few people standing in line for Apple as well. But you would say those two companies probably have a little bit of a different culture about them. Steve Jobs was a hard driver. He pushed people. He had a goal to achieve. There was a task that he was after, and his approach was very authoritarian. That's what I want you to think about. Which type are you when it comes to knowing who you are? Are you authoritarian, where you tell people what to do and you expect them to do it because there's a task that needs to be achieved and that's what we're going to do? Or are you a little bit more democratic and you listen to what everybody wants and everybody has input? You're still the final decision, but those decisions are impacted by the people around you. So democratic, you're very people oriented. Authoritarian, you're very task oriented. Either one can be great. Both of these are great companies. But who wants to work for who? Because if you're authoritarian, you're going to attract other people who want to be extremely challenged, really pushed, also authoritarian, believe strongly in what they want to see get done. And if you're democratic, you're going to attract people that want to see people do well. The one thing I'll say about this is Steve Jobs was fired 3 different times from Apple because he was a hard driver. People didn't like him. And if you have a need to feel liked by other people, you might be over here more on the democratic side. If you don't feel the need to be liked by other people and we have a goal and a task and something to achieve, you might be more on the authoritarian side. But you need to get this understanding about who you are, because that's going to have everything to do with who you bring in. This is your nature. This has been hardwired into you from the time you were born, usually through about age 15, 16, and the experiences we gain through that, and even some of our first experiences in the working world as adults kind of wires us to this, and it's our nature, very hard to change. The reason I know is because I'm more authoritarian. I got tasks to do, competitions to win, problems to solve, and things like that, regardless of the people. And I've had to become more like this guy over here because I love people and I care about them. And I wasn't always that way. And so motive is the other thing. So we got nature on one side, authoritarian or democratic. And on the other side, we have motive. What is our motive? And if our motive is about caring for others and lifting others up and protecting others, you kind of fall into this hero persona. And then on the other side, hey, I have my agenda and I'm going to get that agenda done, regardless of the consequences. That person would be defined as a villain. Now, he isn't defined as a villain by the people following him, but the larger group of people viewing him would say that he is a villain. What's our motive? And this is something I thought about a long time. This took me many years to come to this understanding of what leadership was, that I was an authoritarian villain, that people didn't matter. We had something that had to be done. And it was a belief that I had. That's what made it the villain, my belief, not our belief. And my motive changed overnight. And that's how motive works. Your motive can change overnight. How many of you have watched a Marvel movie where the bad guy becomes a good guy? Or vice versa, the good guy becomes a bad guy. And it's usually a pinnacle moment in their life. Have you had that pinnacle moment where things changed for you and you said, hey, I've been on the wrong path, I need to be on the right path? Or maybe you were on the right path and something burned you in a way that you could not get past it, and it changed your motive and put you on the wrong path. Strongly consider that, because whoever you are, authoritarian villain or democratic hero, it's who you're going to attract. Now, like I said, nature, very hard to change. Motive, snap of a finger, it can change. Mine changed the day that I found out a bookkeeper of mine stole $585,000 from me. Literally put my business out of business and was forcing bankruptcy into my world. Sitting on the front steps of my house, 5,000 square foot log home on 37 acres in western Wisconsin, with 3 sports cars and 2 big trucks and a nice car that my wife drove, and the boats and the ATVs and everything else that I could possibly want. And me saying, what else do I have to do to prove to everybody that I've made it? And it became a prayerful moment for me, to be honest with you. And the only thing I heard is I had to serve. That's what changed for me. That time in prayer, saying, what else do I need to do? And it changed. And so the very next day I started serving. I didn't even know what serving looked like. And whenever I walked in the office and I looked at my front desk admin gal, and I said, hey, what can I do to help you with your job today? What can I do to make your life easier? How can I help you get better? She looked at me like horns were growing out of my head, because I had never said anything like that in my entire life. And that's a wake-up call. So I want to help you guys maybe have a wake-up call today. When you're leading people, which one are you? What are you driving at? What are you naturally predicated toward? And what's your motive? Number 5, they grow leaders, and they have this super skill of connection. I think it was Bill that mentioned connection. And Bill, as we go through this, ask yourself like, hey, yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing right there. And I believe it's the super skill that leaders have. They're able to connect with other people in a way that makes them want to follow. And if you look at any of the writings and books and 9 million things on the internet, I think the last I checked, there was 37 plus skills that you have to have as a leader. And I can't even remember them all. And how in the world am I going to get them in place? And so we took those and we said, what's in common about them? And what really do you have to have? Because we believe that the most important thing that I have to do is I have to connect to another individual, be in relationship with them so we can have fellowship and actually achieve something together. And so these are the 7 things that allow you to create that connection. First off, you have to understand that they are skills that you turn into a habit that you do consistently all the time. If you do them all the time, you will see the results of that. And so, number 1 is engage. We engage with the people that come into our world, and we engage them in a vision that is shared. It's not the vision of the company that is going to achieve all these great things. It's the vision that this company is going to achieve all these great things while you also achieve all these great things. This opportunity that presents itself, this growth as a leader, this career, not a job. If I can translate that information to somebody else, we start to create a partnership. They start saying, hey, maybe I can get more out of this than just making a paycheck. The exciting opportunities that exist, and I reinforce it often. It's a habit. I talk about the vision and where we're headed all the time. Anytime I feel like somebody's falling off of that track, I remind them of it, that, hey, this is why we're doing all this. Our whole purpose here at Contractor Coach Pro is to empower people to believe. That absolute belief is so important to us. We want them to believe in themselves. We want them to believe in us as their guide. And maybe through all of that, hey, there's a higher power out there with our best interests at heart. And if you don't believe that, that's fine. That's okay. But we need to at least believe in ourselves. And so we help people by engaging with that vision of what we're after. Number 2 is they educate. And they don't just educate their team, they educate themselves as well. Sometimes we put so much into everybody else, we don't put enough into us. And by not putting enough into us, we don't feel it's worth it. It's not worthy anymore, that pursuit. And so if you're going to educate people, make sure you stay ahead. I'm constantly reading, constantly learning, constantly getting better, constantly listening to podcasts, constantly sponging for information out there because I want to get better. And I'm also constantly focused on my team learning and getting better. As a matter of fact, it's one of our core values here at Contractor Coach Pro is to master our craft, to be the best at what we do, and then to be consistent with it, implementing it as practice within our business. That we take time away from doing the work every day to practice and get better at what we do every day. I would say most people in the trades, if they do any training at all, it comes in one of two fashions. One is when we need it because there's a problem and we need to do some training on that thing. Or number two, when somebody's new, we'll do some ride-along type training. And then number three is maybe once a week, maybe once a month or every other week. It needs to be daily. Get 1% better every day. Doesn't have to be long. It can be 5 minutes, 15 minutes. Listen to a podcast, read 10 pages of a good book, go hop on a learning video, but get better every day. That investment, if you remember back before when we talked about investment by leaders, that's one of the ways they invest is consistent practice. Think about any sports team you've ever played on. If you guys have played sports, I've almost bet money that whoever was the best on that team practiced the most outside of the practice the team was doing. Number three of the 7 habits, be the example. Yes, continue to attend LEAP webinars. Yeah, it's a great way to get that education that you need, that learning that you need, and encourage others to do it. Number 3 is to set the example, and that's bringing the energy. I'm here with you guys today, and I hope I'm bringing the energy to this. I don't sound like I'm just droning on and being monotonous, and I'm actually genuinely interested in what I'm doing. But I have to bring that every day in my business too. And one of the first things I'll notice is the energy, and I really should have put this in this present, the positive energy, because we can bring negative too. And I promise you, if you have drama in your businesses, it starts with the leader. The leader allows it, has drama in their own lives, brings it into the building, and everybody else says it's okay. And now drama is in our businesses. We need to not bring that no matter what's going on. That's for our private lives, for our lives where we're impacting others and having responsibility for others. We're bringing the positive energy every day. We have affirmed shared values. So I've mentioned the core values here at Contractor Coach Pro several times. Anybody that comes to work for us knows them from day one. That's who we are and what we're about. We're here to love, serve, care, have fun, and master our craft. You ask anybody on my team what our core values are, they will be able to tell you. They'll even be able to tell you the phrase that goes along with it, which is, if we care enough to willingly serve our clients, they'll know that we love them. It's important to us, and we all agree on that. We're affirmed on that. We're aligned on that. And so we work well together because our actions are aligned with those values. You got to set that example every day. Don't ask somebody to do something you're not willing to do. Don't tell everybody else to work if you're not going to work. Being a leader isn't putting your feet up on the desk. It's putting your feet on the floor and getting to work. Number 4 is empathy. We actually care about another human being. I think this one is so important. It's one I was very lacking in, but you inquire and listen. When somebody's having a tough day or they're starting to bring drama into the business, we ask, what's going on in your world? Why are you dealing with this? We're humble. We actually realize that we're not God's gift to the world and that we have our own faults. And we care enough not to entitle or have sympathy. We have empathy, we understand, but we also have the leadership ability to create the actions and the plan to not entitle them or sympathize with them. So don't enable people to use their excuses to slide by. Create what they need to do to get past it, to overcome those obstacles. We care so much about you. We need to work on these 2 things because I want you to be successful. I know it's in you. I see the potential. I experienced something very similar to you. A lot of us were like, hey, we've been doing this for a little while. We know it all. And that person's new. Why don't they know it all? Well, we didn't know it all either. And we forget about that sometimes. Number 5, we encourage people. We recognize their contributions. Whenever they do something good, we say it. We tell them, we pat them on the back. They upheld one of our core values, or they had a good week, or they had a good call, or they had a good experience, or they did something just right one time. Recognize it. Celebrate the values and victories, and inspire to achieve. We so much tend to focus on the result, and that's not happening. And so we focus on the negative side of things. But if we look at what they were doing activity-wise, something in there was good. They're missing something we need to take some actions on, but at least encourage. And that's, the more we encourage people, the more likely they are to repeat the thing and do it often. But when we focus on the negative, it puts it in their mind. They think about that, and that's what they tend to do more often. One of the best books I ever read was The 1 Minute Manager. And whatever amount of time, shouldn't be any more than 60 seconds, that you focus on the negative with somebody, you should focus the same amount of time on the positive with somebody. It'll create connection between you and them. So we encourage them. Number 6 is we empower them. We foster collaboration through trust. We trust them and they trust us. And because of that, we're able to challenge, we're able to work together, we're able to push each other. It increases self-determination. So if somebody's proven that, hey, I've been able to do some things, I'm doing them well, great. Why don't you teach that to somebody? One person, a group of people. So many times we jump too far ahead. This guy's top sales guy, you're doing really good. I need a sales manager, come be my sales manager. Guess what? Overnight, you're the sales manager. Completely different skill set. We set them up for failure because we didn't empower them to learn the things they needed to learn to actually be a great sales manager, like how to coach, how to teach, how to encourage. Those are all super important to being a great sales manager, how to motivate. And develop confidence. It develops confidence and competence. In order for us to be good at something, we have to be competent at it. And if we're competent at it, we'll become confident at it. And it'll be easier. It'll be more free flowing and real. And by empowering people, they gain that confidence and we're able to let them do their thing. Well, now we move into this position of working on it more than in it. And then number 7 is the hardest one of the 7 habits. It's expecting. I strongly suggest setting standards if you don't have them, at least a minimum. This is what we expect minimally for you to be in this role. And set it from day one and be clear about them. If you're clear about your expectations from day one, nobody has any idea that there is some other way, right? When we don't set expectations, we're not clear about them, and it's just kind of willy-nilly, and we make them up as we go, people start to lose trust in us. And then hold everybody accountable to them. Don't let anybody slide. We had a contest, this was a long time ago, but the contest was to be $1 million salesperson. If you ever sold $1 million, you get to go on this cool vacation with your significant other, all expenses paid. A guy was sitting at $996,500. He had $3,500 to go. And it was December 26th. I remember him walking in my office and telling me he wasn't going to make it. And I said, well, I guess you're not going to make it on the trip, or at least the significant other's not going. You've met the criteria to send 1, but not 2. He's like, I just don't know where I'm going. I've followed up with everybody. I've done everything I can. I said, well, I have faith in you. I've seen your work. I've watched your activity. I know you can get this done. I have no doubt that you can go find that $3,500 you need. And on December 31st, he walked into my office. Yes, I was in my office on New Year's Eve, waiting on him. It was the only reason I was in that day. And he slammed that job down on my desk and said, I'm going on that vacation, so is my wife. Because he knew I wasn't joking. He had seen me already do this and set the example that I expect this. And it was the pinnacle moment working for us. It changed him forever. We sometimes allow kindness, or what we think to be kindness, to let somebody slide, and it sends a message to everybody else that sliding is okay. And how far do you slide before you say it's not okay? So how do they work together? If I engage everybody with my vision and I educate them and myself, I start to get a little buy-in. Hey, that was some good words he said, and he provided the education. This might not be a bad deal. I want you to think of this as these 7 leadership habits being like the axle, the drivetrain, and the engine of your leadership vehicle. It's you. And they're turning. When you turn that axle, you start to do these. It's turning this wheel. And this wheel gets the tire going, which are your people. And you get traction and friction that propels you forward. If you do them consistently, educate, set the example, show empathy, encourage to achieve, empower to grow, expect for respect, you'll get buy-in, which will gain you activity, which will give you discipline and your team discipline, which will achieve results. And finally, the thing we're after as leaders, which is belief. We want people to believe in us, respect us, trust us. And not for anything for our own self-fulfillment and feeling like I'm some kind of something special, but because we're putting them first and we truly believe it, that we're helping them to become better than they were before they met us, impacting not only their lives, but the lives of their families and maybe even families in the future. So that was number 5. It was a little long, sorry. Number 6, they value time. They understand that time is important, so they automate everything they can automate. Leaders do. Leaders figure out, hey, how can I do something to automate that thing? This thing that we keep repeating doing over and over and over again, can we automate it? Can I get a CRM to do that thing? Can I connect my CRM to my accounting software? Can I get this form that's filled out on my website to automatically send the information to my CRM? What all can I automate? Everything. Look at our entire process and look for every opportunity to automate, because every time you automate something, it creates time, creates more time. And yes, you can create more time. I know there's only 24 hours in a day, but I want to be able to work smarter and harder, not smarter before harder. All right. They also learn how to delegate. Remember that empowerment part? By empowering people, we're handing things off to somebody else, which allows us to delegate things to them, which affords us opportunity to invest time into our business from an owner or manager or leader of a team perspective versus the doing perspective. And you're helping other people grow. And then last one is they eliminate. If they don't need it, they get it out of their lives, whatever it is. I think the number one thing that most of us could eliminate immediately and create more time in our world, there's 2 of them. Number 1 is social media. Number 2 is TV. Now, I don't want to take joy out of your life, but really think about how much time do you spend on those things. Like, track it. It'll surprise you. Social media, while valuable, we don't need to be on it all the time. If we catch ourselves scrolling and watching videos and TikToks and all that other good stuff all the time, that's valuable time that you don't get back. You wouldn't let somebody steal your car. Why would you let somebody steal your time? And they own it. They own their time. They set the expectations on their time and when they're available. They create schedules and they follow them, routines and they follow them. They let people know when they're available and when they're not. One of the examples, all my clients know this: you shoot me an email, I'm not responding to it until 11 a.m. or 4 p.m. That's when I check my emails, because if I have my email on all the time, I get a notification, I go look at it, and it distracts me from what I'm doing. It takes away from my focus, hard to reorient myself, and I'm just losing time. I own my time. Nobody else does. We don't have a whole lot of things that we can control, but it is one of the things we can control. And we put every measure in place that we can to control it in a way that propels us forward. So a couple little brain tattoos. I want you to like ingrain these in your mind about this time thing. Your addiction to distraction will be the death of your creative production. This guy, Robin Sharma, pretty solid on his quotes. He's a quote machine. That one really stuck out to me. And I want it to stick out to you. Those distractions are taking you away from doing something amazing. We're going to talk about in just a second. We live in a world where your focus is more valuable than your intelligence. I'd much rather have somebody focus on achieving something and getting it done than the smartest person in the world not focused on it. I want you to really think about that when it comes to the people that you lead. Are they focused or are they smart? I want focused and hungry people. That leads us to number 7, and really the end result of our leadership abilities and capacity is exponential influence. This idea that what we're doing today and now as leaders is not only going to directly impact the people that we're engaged with, but it could go far beyond that. And so we have this thing we call the impact equation. Your ability or skill times the capacity you have or time available to you will equal your impact. And so if you have very little ability, okay, down here at a 1, and very little capacity, you're not going to have much impact. Now you could be a 10 on the skill level, but no time to work on your business instead of in it. And again, you're going to have very little impact. But you can have all the time in the world and no skill, again, very little impact. But if you can improve your abilities and skills and you can create more time, your impact becomes exponential and goes far beyond you. It could radically change the life of one single human being or millions, depending on what you're after and why you're after it. And that's where I look at the responsibility as a leader. It's an impact to an exponent. So your ability times your capacity equals your impact to what exponent? Is it going to be a 1 or is it going to be a 10? What power are you going to pass on to the world? Like the pebble going into a pond. Are you going to be a grain of sand going in the pond? Or are you going to be a boulder? It's really up to you. And neither is right or wrong, to be honest with you. It's where you feel you and who you are and what's aligned with you. So key takeaways from today's time together. Number 1, you have to have absolute belief in order to achieve anything great. You need to plan strategically. I cannot stand the thing that I hear all the time of people saying, take massive action. Taking massive action without any kind of a plan is just a disaster and failure waiting to happen. Why would I create an opportunity for failure if I don't have to? Know who you are and who you attract. Number 4, habitual connection. Make it a habit to implement those 7 habits, and you will connect with other people and they will follow you. Time, every moment counts. We only have so much of it, and it's a pinprick in eternity that we're here. What are you going to do with that time and this life that you've been blessed with? What impact will you make on those around you? And will it be in your family? Will it be in your business? Will it be in your community, your state, your nation, or the world? Now, I want to wrap this up with what leadership should be. I've seen this thing out there that really drives me crazy, and I want to drive home this point that I made from the beginning of what to think about. I told you to think about what attracts you and why. How many of you have seen lions, not shepherds? Have you seen that before? Just a yes or a no. Probably not. I don't know. It's kind of big in the trades world. I've seen it quite a bit, but maybe you don't see it as much as I do. But it attracted me. But I always think about, why does something attract me? Lions, not sheep. Yeah, man, that sounds great. I want to be a lion. I don't want to be a sheep. I don't want to be a follower. But as I thought about that, I thought about, well, what do lions do? What do lions do? They're predators. They eat sheep or devour sheep. And like, is that really what we want to be as a leader? And it was really being propelled forward by this idea that to be a lion and a leader, not a follower, right? It really bothered me that I was drawn to it, because it spoke to my own pride and my own ego and those things that I don't like about myself, that I know are my nature. And I spent some time looking into it and then thinking about it, and what should we really be as leaders? Because if there's a pride of lions, and I think it's odd that they're called a pride of lions, and a bull elephant runs into that pride of lions, what do? They don't attack the elephant, they run. And they don't run with each other, they split. Check you later, brother, I'm out. Well, if a bull elephant hits my business, I don't want my leaders checking out. Now, if you flip that coin over on the other side and you say, hey, a lion is attacking a group of sheep, what does the shepherd do? The shepherd will go as far as to lay his life down for his flock. And I think that's what we should be as leaders. I think we should be willing to fall on the grenade. We should be willing to take ultimate ownership. We should be willing to care enough about the people that work for us that we will do whatever it takes to help them achieve their full potential. We guide them. We care for them. We feed them through education and empowerment. That's what leadership should be. So what's the impact? And so I want you to think about this when you're in your businesses. What's your situation? Are you in control of your business? Is it growing? Are you achieving that personal and financial freedom that you want? I have some tasks for you. There's a leadership assessment. There's also this thing called a SWOT analysis or SWOT exercise: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats to you and your business. I also have some time boxing things for you, which is a block schedule. You could actually go look that up on YouTube. Just look up block scheduling and it'll help you get control of your calendar. And then I have an exercise for leadership commitments and how you're going to commit to doing those 7 habits. You can download that from this webinar. Now I want you to take action. With this insight, what are you going to do with this today? What are some of those actions that you need to take right away? And then what happened when you took the action? So I would like you to take our leadership assessment. You can scan this on your computer right now. Just hold your phone up, scan that, and it's going to take you to a leadership assessment. It's only 10 questions. Answer them and get an assessment of where you're at on your leadership ability. That's action number 1. When you get your report back, what are you going to do with it? Okay. So what's the result? I took this action. I took that assessment. Now what happened when I took it? Gave me some insight into what I need to do. You're going to get a download with those SWOT analysis. If you have any struggles with any of, there's really good instructions in there. There's all kinds of videos on that as well. But if you don't get what you need, you can see there's my email right there, info@contractorcoachpro.com. You can reach out to me there. If you want to learn more about what we do and how we do it and how we train others, we have an online learning platform for folks that if they want to get better at sales or marketing or leadership, it's called the contractortrainingroom.com. If you want to be a part of our world and our community, we would love to have you. You can like our page at Contractor Coach Pro, or join our group. That's really probably the one where you're going to get the most out of it. We're constantly sharing in there ways to be better at what you do. It's called Contractor Community. Control Growth Freedom, I think, is also on there. You'll see. Instagram, Contractor Coach Pro. We got lots of cool videos and photos of us doing what we do and our clients. Twitter at CCP Wins. And if you're a podcast person, Contractor Radio is killer. Go like that page on Facebook and listen and download our podcast. That takes care of our webinar today. Not too bad on time. Sorry, it was a little longer than I was trying to get it into. Does anybody have any questions, input, feedback, anything I could do better about this? Bill says, thanks. Hey, appreciate that, Bill. I'm glad to be here. I want to say thanks to Leap for asking me to do this and giving me the honor to speak to you guys. I hope that it makes a difference in at least one of you in some way, shape, form, or fashion for the positive.
We always love having you, Jim. That was an amazing presentation. I know I learned a ton as someone who, I thought that I was a decent leader. I thought I at least was in the right track. You definitely opened my eyes to a lot of things. And, I'm excited to take the information that I learned today and put it to use in my everyday life. So thank you so much.
Awesome.
For that.
Sheila got the scan. Good. Anybody else? Make sure you grab that scan. I put it back to that. She asked for me to put it back there. How will they get the download, Madeline?
I believe that the email was scheduled to go out on Thursday. They'll be receiving a copy of this recorded webinar so they can refer back to it, as well as that download.
Awesome. Any other questions, feedback, anything else?
I have one little thing about Leap, if you wouldn't mind.
Boom, done.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheila. I really appreciate that.
Well, thank you so much, Jim. Like I said, that was an amazing presentation. I know I learned a ton, and I'm sure that so many people on this webinar did as well. I wanted to remind everyone that today's webinar is brought to you by Leap. Leap is a sales software that reduces errors and redundancies that slow down your sales process. Whether you're roofing, windows, siding, flooring, kitchen and bath, or any other of the home services, you can use the power of Leap to make customizable sales platforms your own. With Leap, you can take your documents, estimates, brochures, personal checks, handwritten notes, and measurements and put them all into a digital location that powers your business. I'm going to launch a poll, and if you're interested in scheduling a demo of Leap to learn a little more, you can just go ahead and indicate that on the screen.
Hey, Madeline, just for anybody that's not using Leap, start using it. It's like literally having a professional salesperson with you that you can even leave behind if you don't get the sale right then and there. That really makes an impression on your homeowner. All of our clients use it. It's just that powerful.
It's definitely a very powerful tool. I agree there. I've not heard very many negative things. Everyone I've talked to is only happy that they switched over to the technical side, the technical world of Leap. If you enjoyed today's presentation, please make sure to keep an eye out for next week's webinar, Your Roadmap for Growth and Efficiency with Dave Yoho Associates and Market Sharp, a few of our partners. They're going to teach us about scaling your business, properly pricing and marking up so that you're also making a profit, but your customers are happy with your pricing. It's going to be a good one. Thank you again, Jim. It was great having you, and I hope to see you again, possibly on another webinar. I'm sure you got lots of information to share.
Yeah, I got some cool, fun stuff. We can talk about sales. We can talk about recruiting and hiring. We can talk about all kinds of fun things. That's what we do. And if anybody, I will throw this out, anybody that's still listening, if they want a free coaching call just for coming here today, go to our website, click the assessment button and fill that out. And we'll do a free coaching call with you and help you with your business.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you so much, Jim. That's a great offer.
Yeah, no strings attached, no pitch, none of that kind of stuff. We don't do that. Like, we're there to help you.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. And I hope you all have a great rest of your day.
Yep. Thank you. Appreciate it, man.
Bye.
Bye, guys.